Tijuana is booming. Business is bustling. New neighborhoods and shopping centers pop up overnight. In just 2 decades, this once modest border town has been transformed into an international manufacturing powerhouse. Home to 1.3 million people, Tijuana's population now rivals its once larger neighbor to the north. Some of Tijuana's growth is from births, but the biggest factor fueling the boom is not the babies, but their migrant parents, the vast majority of whom have recently arrived in Tijuana from Mexico's poorer states, like Michoacán, Nayarit, and Oaxaca.
Soy de Chiapas y soy de Jalisco.
Soy de Nayarit.
Puerto Vallarta.
75,000 Mexicans move to Tijuana each year looking for jobs.
The workers here are from all over. From Quintana Roo, one girl is from Acapulco, another girl from Mexico City, and she's from Michoacán. They're from all over.
Tijuana is Mexico's second fastest growing city, just behind the resort town of Cancun. For most of its recent history, Tijuana's population has nearly doubled every decade. And officials are bracing for another 2 million residents by the year 2020.
Despite the soaring numbers, unemployment stands at just 1%. But while jobs are abundant, basic necessities are not. And many question whether this rapid expansion is truly bringing prosperity to Tijuana's residents, the majority of whom live in poverty.
The point is that migrants can have a job in a matter of days, but they cannot have for their families a decent house with all the utilities, water supply, sewage, electricity, etc., nor schools for their kids or childcare centers or health clinics. If we keep this space, having more companies moving to Tijuana without taking care of the social aspects of the population, the risk is that within 10, 20 years we can have a highly violent society.
Americans already see Tijuana as a violent city. After all, it is the base for one of Mexico's most ruthless drug cartels. But for many within Mexico, Tijuana is seen as the promised land. For workers, there are jobs. For entrepreneurs, there are business opportunities. Here, a family can regularly put food on the table, see their children get an education, and eventually own a piece of land. 17 years ago, Margarita Ruiz Hernandez left the central state of Zacatecas to take a chance on that promise. Her 8 children, now adults with children of their own, migrated too. The whole family remains close.
Every morning we all get together for breakfast. Mostly just the moms and the kids. Everyone else is at work. People are always surprised when they see how big our family is. When we have parties, we don't even have to invite any guests. The family alone fills the room.
Es mucha.
The Hernandez family came here in 1983, searching for opportunities in Tijuana's expanding manufacturing industry. Their arrival coincided with hundreds of foreign-owned factories known as maquiladoras, rushing to set up shop along the U.S.-Mexico border. The Hernandezes were one of the first families to settle into the city's burgeoning east side. Hundreds of thousands of new migrants have since followed.
Every day new people arrive. Look over there on that hill. It's full of people now. The hillsides, everything, it's all full.
The Hernandezes' gains were hard-fought and slow coming. Like many Tijuana families, they pooled their money, 500 pesos, about $400 at the time, and bought a small plot of land. They began building their own home room by room, with little money, but a lot of ingenuity and sweat equity.
Every paycheck, we would save something. Soon we had enough for the down payment on the land. After that, we started the construction.
Throughout the 1990s, the Hernandezes watched their neighborhood of Mariana Matamoros grow and improve. In the beginning, the city only provided water, and the promise that one day telephone lines, electricity, and a sewer system would follow.
The people had only shacks made of wood, but little by little they would start building better homes. They would take away the wood and add on something better. You just make improvements one step at a time. You make sacrifices so you can get ahead. because everyone wants to live in a dignified place. With dignity, right?
Dignamente, ¿verdad?
After several years, the Hernandezes were able to open a picture frame factory. Humberto Hernandez says at peak season, his family employs up to 50 people.
Aquí en Tijuana hay mucha oportunidad de progresar.
In Tijuana, there are a lot of opportunities to get ahead. We've been able to really progress here. The whole family works at the factory. Even our wives, at one time or another, have all worked here. And it's because of the business that we were able to build our homes. It took a lot of sacrifice, time, and patience, but we've really done well here.
Pues sí, sí nos ha ido bien.
That success shows up the block from Margarita's house, where all of her adult children have built their homes.
Esta es la casa de un hijo.
This is one of my son's house, the oldest son. He has the biggest house. Well, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 rooms. Yes, it's very big, with 7 rooms.
Sí está grande. 7.
Each newer home reflects the family's achievements. 15 years later, they now have nearly all the modern conveniences. Alongside Mariana Matamoros, new ramshackle colonias sprout out of the hillsides and canyons of Tijuana's developing east side. The ever-growing population in shanty towns like Terrazas del Valle, La Morita, and Valle Verde makes for lots of business opportunities, like stationery shops, markets, and video stores. Neighborhood schools are growing too. Mariana Matamoros' primary school now teems with 600 students. Tijuana has made good on its promise for the Hernandezes and many other migrant families. Such stories are common in Tijuana's history. The city has always lured people here on the chance of striking it rich. Jorge and Hilda Escobedo are among the few that actually did.
I began with a very little shop in the 3rd Street down. I built in a revolution close to the High Ally.
It was just after World War II that a 26-year-old Jorge Escobedo and his brother Antonio took a chance on Tijuana. The city was booming back then, too. At that time, it was tourism fueling the economy. The two opened stores along the city's main dirt road, Avenida Revolucion, catering to the tastes of American tourists.
We have thousands of Americans, and they call the most visitor city in the world.
Jorge married Hilda, a Tijuana native. The two began building a home on the hills overlooking downtown. Jorge can see the astonishing changes in the city just by stepping onto his balcony.
All these houses you've seen in the hills, they are nothing there. Because Tijuana, it was one street, downtown to the casino Agua Caliente. Downtown, it has about 8 blocks.
Over the years, tourism began to wane. It now makes up less than 10% of the economy. Jorge left the business and Avenida Revolucion. Once a shopper's haven, the tourist strip now caters to young drinkers at night and drugstore patrons during the day. But as in the past, Tijuana adapts to Americans' fickle tastes and economic downturns. The city is resilient, Jorge says, constantly reinventing itself.
Many times people think Tijuana is going to be poor, but all the time that happens comes a new thing. The tourists make raise up the city, of course, but now no tourists. The maquiladoras is the way the city grown. It grown more than the tourists.
Foreign investment in the city soared with the passage of the North American Free Trade Agreement in 1993. The trade pact lured even more companies from all around the world to Tijuana. It was a perfect match between industries needing lots of cheap labor and a country eager to work. More than 760 maquiladoras now operate in Tijuana, and foreign factories and dollars continue to pour in. David Reyes moved from Mexico City to the border, banking on Tijuana's industrial boom. He gave up a place in the family business to become a city councilman 3 years ago. During that short time, $5 billion have been invested in the city.
This is the handy on the right. They have like 1,200 employees, and Samsung is here. Here they make TVs and monitors.
One of Tijuana's biggest coups was convincing Korea's Samsung Corporation to build its television and VCR factory in the city's open east side, a $500 million investment.
Indeed, it was a very huge investment for Tijuana to create a park like this, no? Because actually we have very close to 7,000 people working. We will continue growing. Actually, according with the president, we have very high expectation for this coming year. In the next coming years, I think the future for us, for Samsung, I think will be good.
Companies like Samsung and Sony have made Tijuana the television manufacturing capital of the world, churning out more than 40,000 TVs a day, 16 million a year. Their demand for workers is insatiable. Isabel Lopez Martinez left her home in the Pacific state of Nayarit for a job in Tijuana. She says the only work for her at home was in the fields. There she would make only Mexico's minimum wage of about $3.50 a day. Here in the Maquiladora, she can make 2 to 3 times that rate. But with so many workers coming, Tijuana is showing the strain. There is more traffic, increased pollution, and overcrowding. In a vain effort to keep up with all the new arrivals, the city is expanding by 8 acres a day. Postman Roberto Laureano says he's finding it hard to keep up with all the new addresses being added to his route.
These on this side of the street, they just finished them this year. I don't know how many apartments there are there, but it's probably more than 1,000, because they go all the way up that hillside. It's really big.
Roberto's deliveries have increased 50% since he started 8 years ago.
Before, the central office would send us 1 bin a day to deliver, never more than half full. Now they're sending us 6 or 8 bins full of mail every day.
Roberto says most of the people moving into these newer complexes are not the newcomers to the city, but longtime residents who have been able to move up a bit. That progress, while not widespread, is bolstering city planners' projections that continued growth and aggressive recruitment of new businesses will ultimately bring more prosperity to Tijuana.
It will become a real city, and we will have better services, more interesting areas to go, and a stronger economy, an important city in the region and in the world. That's what will happen. I mean, this idea of fear of growth, there are cities, there are 8 million people, and there are exquisite places to live.
But does bigger really mean better for everyone?
In my opinion, it's not sustainable, in the sense that we don't have the resources to meet all the needs these new people have.
Tijuana faces many of the same challenges of growth that San Diego does. But the city's budget of $150 million pales in comparison to its northern neighbors' coffers of $2.3 billion. And Mexico's centralized government places even more restrictions for the cash-strapped city. Revenue is closely monitored by Mexico City. And for every peso collected in Tijuana, only a fraction comes back. This financial shortfall is big enough to dampen the enthusiasm of even Baja's young and eager politicians.
No, the challenges are enormous because you have to provide services, public safety, roads, water, everything to these people. And with the lack of resources that the city government has in Mexico, it is very, very difficult. It is more like a game of creativity.
Reyes left his city councilman post so he could run for the Baja State Assembly. He says because of the lack of proper drainage, even the region's light rainfall can bring the city to a halt.
They have a lot of troubles to get out and go to work. That's something that affects the industry sometimes, because if the people can get out of their home and go to their jobs, you lose productivity in that things. You cannot take the children to the school. The mothers cannot go to shop the food. It's very difficult to live under these circumstances.
He wants to get ahead of the curve, and he says in some areas of the city, officials have done just that. Take the east side colonia of Valle Verde. It was one of the first planned communities for Tijuana, but officials were overwhelmed by the number of people who moved in.
We were expecting here at the beginning to have only 25,000 families, but they have arrived 40,000, so we need more sections of the neighborhood.
And how long will it take you to continue the pavement?
That is a very good question. I hope that during the next year this will continue, because this is the main street of Valle Verde.
I'm sure there are streets like this all over Tijuana where the pavement stopped,
yes,
and you need to add more pavement.
Yes.
How do you afford to do all that? Where do you get? How can you pay for all this?
Okay, the same way as this was built. We have to convince the neighbors of that zone to put some of the money to build this, and the government put the other part of the money. That's the only way we can do it.
That 50-50 plan has worked well for the neighborhoods that are able and willing to ante up. They get the services first. But as Tijuana continues to grow at such a phenomenal pace, many more neighborhoods are left behind. Gloria Renteria knows that all too well. She moved 8 years ago from Nayarit to La Morita Colonia. She's still building her home.
When we came here, there was nothing. We didn't even have electricity. We would steal it. See up there, the hill in the older neighborhood? One of us would go up there, cut the cables, the other would connect the wire and pull it all the way back down here. We had to fight with the authorities to finally get proper electricity.
She and her husband purchased a dirt lot here from the government for about $400. The city hadn't hooked up any services then. The Renterias lived without legal electricity for the first 3 years, and it was just 2 years ago that the city finally installed running water.
Everything has to be fought for. That's the only way we've been able to get where we are now. We still don't have any drainage or sewer system. That's why we're still fighting.
Baja California is used to ranking at the top of Mexico's socioeconomic index, but now it has slipped. Last year's census shows the state has not been as successful in building essential infrastructure as other less affluent states.
And once a leader in providing education to children 6 to 14, Baja California has dropped to 18th in the percentage of children attending school.
Our school has grown up with the community here. We opened up 10 years ago, and right now the community has surpassed the school's capacity. Every year we have the same problems. There are more kids coming than we have a spot for. We just don't have any space.
Tijuana doesn't have the money for new schools. Gloria's son has been begging his mother to send him back to their home state of Nayarit to live with his grandmother. And it's not just because his school is overcrowded. She says he doesn't like it here because of problems with drugs in the schools. I asked her how a 7-year-old would know about all this.
Well, he's got eyes. He sees what's going on. There are lots of 7- and 8-year-olds around here that are sniffing glue. They bring their bags full of it with them to school.
Crime in general is a problem, and Gloria says the police are little help.
Well, the police, sometimes they come here and sometimes they don't. It's like there are no regular patrols. They just come by when they need money. They're all corrupt. They come in here, pick up a few kids, drive them around the block 2 or 3 times. If you give them money, they won't take your kid to the police station and they'll give him back to you, and everything's fine. There's so much corruption here.
Corruption has poisoned the public's faith in Mexico's institutions, from the local police department all the way up to high-level politicians. That distrust has taken its toll on the country's treasury. Mexico has one of the lowest rates of tax collection in the world. Only 1 in 13 Mexicans pay taxes. That situation has created a vicious cycle.
Why do I pay taxes if politicians are corrupt? Well, we need to change that mentality to become more responsible as citizens, more cooperative in solving the problem, not waiting that Father Government is coming to solve our problems.
But even if residents regain confidence in the government and wanted to pay taxes, the reality is that many don't have the money. Gloria's family lives on a very tight budget. She has 2 children and works at a maquiladora making fine furniture. Her husband washes cars. Despite 2 incomes, her family lives in poverty. Compounding problems is the high cost of living at the border. Gasoline, milk, and basic groceries are priced more like San Diego than southern Mexico. Many families send one worker to the U.S. to earn more money. Some 50,000 Tijuana residents cross legally into San Diego each day to work. No one really knows how many cross illegally.
That's what we call the binational families. They combine to have 1 or 2 members in the United States. They don't want to move all the family to across the border, but they sometimes take turns in going back and forth in order to have that kind of income in dollars.
Gloria and her husband tried to live in the United States. They crossed the border illegally and lived just outside of Los Angeles. But without papers, they couldn't get work and eventually returned to struggle in this growing economy.
There's very little upward mobility. There's some for people who work really hard, but you can't borrow at low interest and improve the quality of your life by investing in your business, by investing in your home. A cash economy is always very hard in which for people to prosper in.
That cash economy is hard not only on poor people but also on the government. Cities have few ways to raise revenues. Under federal law, they cannot levy a sales tax, float bonds, or accept international loans. And without long-term financing, Tijuana cannot build crucial infrastructure, like a desperately needed aqueduct or a mass transit system. Tight credit limits the formation of small businesses, which could spread the wealth of the maquiladoras.
The maquiladoras are not by themselves an economic development strategy. They're one step on a ladder. And the problem is that the whole structure of the economy of Tijuana and of northern Mexico hasn't allowed the other rungs to develop. So if there are opportunities for small and medium-sized business to develop and they're local and they're owned by Mexicans, then there are places for workers to go besides the maquiladoras.
But Tijuana can't change unless Mexico's entire banking system reforms. And many are looking to this border city to lead the way. It wouldn't be the first time. In 1989, Baja Californians made history. Ensenada's maverick mayor, Ernesto Rufo, was elected as Baja's governor, the first in the nation not from the long-ruling Free Party. Rufo's pro-business PAN party soon won other states, and last summer, Vicente Fox stripped the PRI of the presidency for the first time in 71 years. Baja had proven its place as the nation's trendsetter.
I would say it's the spirit. People that has moved from many other places from Mexico, they want to progress, and they're not going to stop until they obtain what they feel it will be just, which is a fair way of living.
Rufo, who's been named the president's point person along the border, has suggested that maquiladoras pay higher taxes. Just how high, though, he hasn't said. Somehow, though, the government is going to have to find more revenues to manage Mexico's growing population. President Fox has proposed raising federal taxes. And cognizant of the need to rebuild the people's trust in government, he's launched a major anti-corruption crackdown.
Esta ciudad es una ciudad de migrantes.
Tijuana is a city of migrants, a city made up of women and men who came here in search of opportunities. But along the way, they've created a city in the vanguard of change, a city that strategically dips into the vast reserve of Mexican values. These are the values that will give us the strength we need to confront corruption and impunity in our country.
The challenges facing Fox are enormous. He's banking on continued economic prosperity, a shaky scheme in light of the downturn in the U.S. economy. But some say there are signs of hope.
I have seen in the last election some amazing situations. For instance, a businessman saying to me that he was already willing to pay in full all taxes that he has been evading in the past, because he sees in the new government more transparency, a goodwill to make changes, So that creates some kind of trust.
Tijuana has been leading the way in the transition of Mexico all along, in the political area and in the economic area. And that's why, one reason why it's so hard on Tijuana, but it's also so much fun to sort of be part of that. It's at the frontier. It's trying to do things for the first time that haven't been done before in Mexico.
The important thing is that everybody gets an opportunity. So if everybody feels that there is more opportunities, I think we will be winning the battle.
What's your focus? Join the online discussion at www.kpbs.org.
The production and broadcast of Full Focus is made possible by your membership contributions to KPBS.